Good afternoon, uh, at least East Coast time or wherever you might be joining us. I'm excited to have everyone on this afternoon's show. And so we're going to give everyone a couple minutes to join, get on the webinar, and then we'll get going. So we have an amazing lineup today, a fun topic, companies and technology that are getting after it. So we're going to spend some time together here in the STRATFI winner circle. So how to go from innovation to impact. So we'll wait a minute or two, allow people to join and get on. I see the numbers clicking up and people joining. So we're excited to have everyone here today, Wednesday, hump day. Um, Here live from our Outpost and Outpost Ventures headquarters here in Alexandria, Virginia. We had a great dinner event last night with a bunch of founders and investors. It was great. So we sponsored it with Silicon Valley Bank, Cooley, a couple others. So we had a fun dinner last night. Outing. We're trying to do it a quarterly thing, kind of inside baseball for getting deals done in the DoD. So hopefully some of you will be able to join in the future. It was a fun event. We're also announcing a fun pitch event we're doing, I think, in September. So normally we have a big Air Force Association event here at the headquarters. I think it's going to be September 22nd. And we're doing a fun pitch event called Deals on Deck. So look for that to come as well. All right, we'll give another 30 seconds as I see more people are coming on and joining, and then we'll get started with the webinar. So excited to have everyone here today and joining us. All right, we'll go ahead and get rolling. We are at the STRATFI winner circle, from innovation to impact, and we have a star lineup here of great technology companies, great innovators. And so I have lots of stories from everyone here who have known for years, or we've done stuff hand in hand, or we've helped get contracts. We've been in the war zone of innovation, I think. And so I'm sure some of these stories will come out here of working together. But amazing panel. I'm going to introduce them here in a minute. But we want this to really connect StratFi awardees to share tactical, strategic, and operational lessons. And look, we've seen a lot of stuff, and I get calls from CEOs. Everybody, we continue to raise money for various funds as well. Always the question, how's Doge treating you? What's its impact? What's the administration? What's the politics doing? And it's real. And today's segment is going to be, I think, inspirational, because there's some amazing technology companies doing great things. And I've had the luxury of seeing some of these grow from back of a napkin to what they are today. And so you want to look back and kind of pat yourself on the back. At the same time, there's some things to be learned down in the trenches. And so today's not about sugarcoating some of the challenges involved with getting the matching funds program and the StratFi done and accomplished. And so we're going to explore that today. Be real with each other, and at the same time get some lessons learned from people that have been there, done that, and have got it done. I think when I started AFWorks, I was laughing because we were at an accelerator in Techstars and Barclays out in London. So I just hung up a new sign here. It said "Get shit done," and I had taken a picture of a lighted sign in London at the Barclays Innovation Center. It said "Get shit done," and that was my rally cry for, hey, let's go do this. And so I think each company that's on here today embodies that same kind of attitude of digging in the trenches and getting it done. So it's an honor to have everyone here today. First, going to introduce Max Morasco from Red 6. So Vice President of DoD Strategy and Business Development. Max, say hi to the crowd.
Hello, everybody. Happy to be here. And
Awesome.
you want me to do? We're going to do the background right now, real quick. Or are you going to do
Yeah, I'll
it?
do a little background, and then if I tell any lies, you can jump
That's
in
fine.
and correct all
I
lies.
didn't know.
So,
Sounds
you know,
good.
we got the usual notes, but there's probably something that's cooler in there for the crowd that you can relay. But retired U.S. Air Force colonel, over 29 years of service, 3,300 flight hours, 125 combat hours. Served as deputy director for air and cyberspace ops in our beloved PACAF, Pacific Air Forces. And he's a Air Force Academy and Weapons School graduate with 3 master's degrees. So he's a glutton for punishment. He just likes piling on the master's degrees. Max, we also like to make it interesting here on these webinars. So what's your favorite vacation spot? I'll put you on the.
My favorite spot is the Pacific Missile Range Facility on Kauai. It's called Barking Sands. Also, it's on the west coast of Kauai, and they have houses that are right on the beach, and there is nobody there, and it's awesome.
Amazing. That sounds amazing. I thought you were going to say you just like ride missiles around, but I guess no. You
No,
actually like
no,
the beach
and
portion.
what was great about it is living in Hawaii. It was a 30-minute flight to get there, so I would spend the weekend there after work, fly back, and then go to work.
Amazing.
So it's great.
Amazing. I love it. Awesome. Appreciate you joining us today. Chris Watry, co-founder, CEO of Dynepic, also Air Force veteran, MIT engineer. I think she just slipped rocket scientist in there, so she sounds super uber smart, which she is, and is amazing. Multiple time entrepreneur with decades experience in multiple companies, including hardware and software products, which we really think is that fusion is the future of where things are headed. Crystal holds 15 patents and was named XR Leader of the Year in 2023. So truly a rock star. And Chris, I guess we'll go with the same question. Just keep the questions fair. So
my favorite
give us your favorite place.
Yeah, my favorite spot too. Vacation
Yeah.
these days is Belize, actually. So back 3 times in the last, well, 2 times and going back again in the last 60 days. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Amazing. So Belize is an amazing place as well. Next up, we have Rob Slaughter, CEO and co-founder of Defense Unicorns. He leads strategic efforts, delivers mission critical software, former U.S. Air Force officer who I got to serve with personally, and a recognized leader in DevSecOps. So maybe over a beer or coffee, Rob and I can share a story or two with you, getting some cool stuff done. Dr. Slaughter, I see he slipped the doctor in there, which is awesome. Has played a key role in driving software modernization across the DoD, holds a PhD in engineering physics and a master's in nuclear physics. So you must be a really smart guy too, Rob, which you are. And I know that, and excited to have you on here today. So same question to you, sir. What's your favorite spot?
Favorite spot? I feel terrible saying this because one of the reasons why I love it is because nobody's there. But Bocas del Toro in Panama is fantastic. Do not go to Panama City. Google Bocas del Toro. It's fantastic. There's not a ton of tourists, so you kind of get a different total feel for it. Probably very similar to Belize. Happy to be here, Dave. It's always an honor to chat with you and everybody else that's joining and the other panelists. Just really awesome to be able to chat about STRATFI.
Yeah, awesome. I see people still joining online, and so the numbers keep going up. So if you're just joining, welcome to the STRATFI Winner Circle webinar. We have one last panelist here, last but not least. Dave Caudle is the VP Security and Defense for Reveal Technologies, former U.S. Army officer, so appreciate everyone's service here on the panel. A current battalion commander, still in the National Guard, and he is obsessed with helping our warriors make decisions faster than the adversary. We used to like to call that the OODA loop, getting inside the OODA loop. So with that, Dave, I give you the same question. We've had such a, if no one else online gets anything out of this, you'll have some recommendations for some great vacation spots. That's our goal here for the webinar. So Dave, what do you have cooking for us for the audience?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I probably have a more boring and more domestic sort of response. I married a Michigander who taught me that the beach isn't the East Coast that I grew up on. It's actually the beaches of Lake Michigan. I have a bunch of small children, so my vacation spot in heaven on earth is on the beach or on the boat, northern Michigan, Lake Superior, Canada, with my family over
Awesome.
the summer.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm a big boat guy. I think recently, the last couple of years, I discovered Aruba. So that's my contribution to this. It's an arid climate. It's 84 every day, 79 at night, and it's out of the little hurricane pathway because it's right off the coast of South America. So you don't keep getting schwacked and all the infrastructure having to be rebuilt like the Caribbean. So, I'll put in Aruba as my casting vote, in addition to all the other good ones. So with that, we're going to dive into it. Really, part of this is, folks that are joining, there's going to be an opportunity to ask questions. As you're thinking about questions, go ahead and put them online. We'll pull from the chat here as we go. And so, feel free to go ahead and put those questions online. We'll also have an open session at the end of the time to talk about. We're going to do kind of a company spotlight. And this is the company just kind of, giving you kind of a storytelling arc. Everyone loves hearing the story. Hey, how'd you do it? In the fighter pilot world, it's there I was, and some hand motions. So expect those from Max. It's those types of things that I think are important on how do you go from problems that you're trying to solve at the company to getting support and getting that matching funds and that STRATFI, and then actually getting that, solution deployed. And each of them have their own unique challenges and opportunities, as we know. And it's a time more than ever where there can be some opportunity in chaos. And so, it's highlighted now for us by each of these companies. So I'm going to let the company kind of tell that. So we're going to do kind of a little bit of storytelling. Just tell a story of problem to STRATFI to deployment for your company. We'll then do kind of a moderated panel session, about 20-25 minutes, and then just open it up for questions, interacting, getting your questions answered online, so that you can get the insights that you need to successfully navigate transition in particularly in the Air Force and the Space Force. And we're seeing indications of matching funds programs emerging in the Army and the Navy. So hopefully that continues to grow, and we continue to be advocates, 100% advocates for public-private partnership. I think that's where we incentivize technologies that would normally not be invested in and transform the VC community from, hey, I'm just going to do business-to-business SaaS product to investing in the hardware and software necessary to defend this nation. So, as you know, we have a simple vision statement back behind me, which is do good, make money. And so that's what we're going to talk about here is how do we do good and stay on mission? How do you make money for your companies, for your families, and the people that work for you? So with that, I'm going to hand it over. Max, get us started, buddy. Tell us a good story. How did Red 6 do this?
Okay, well, let me start just with a brief sort of background, because we're a pretty tight group of folks, and our founder and CEO Dan Robinson was a Royal Air Force fighter pilot who was the first British fighter pilot to be allowed to fly the F-22, and he went through F-22 training when I was an F-22 IP back in like 2005. So fast forward about 15 years, and I'm at PACAF, and he's asking for an endorsement for his technology to help solve a training problem. And my boss was out of town, the A3, and so I get the tasking. I go to a weapons and tactics conference that we have annually at Nellis Air Force Base, and I fly the tech, and I endorse the tech, and hook back up with Dan again, obviously, because I hadn't seen him in 15 years. And that led to me joining the company when there was only about 10 people on it, along with a bunch of other people that we all flew together with, and now we've grown to about 140, with the vision being to take our augmented reality technology and solve the adversary air training deficit problem the Air Force has. The Air Force does not have enough aircraft to simulate a Chinese threat, potentially even a Russian threat, depending upon the conditions. And so we're looking at ways to use the live, virtual, and constructive ecosystem, which allows you to take digital entities, see them and interact with them in AR, attach artificial intelligence agents to them so that you can actually get training with a lot less money expended at a lot larger scale. Don't impact airspace, don't impact FAA, blah, 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 blah. And hopefully we make a lot of money in the process. But that's the story.
No, that's good. Thanks for sharing. I remember I share a story. This was we had set up AFWorks in Vegas, and so we had an event there. It wasn't too long after. I think the vice president at the time had done the inaugural opening of the AFWorks Vegas hub, and so I had a guy on my team. He's like, "Hey, you got to meet this guy, Dan Robinson." And so we'll just call it a later night in Vegas, I guess, as
The
it were.
Palms, I think.
So I don't know. It was nearing probably like, I don't know. We'll call it, we'll
Midnight.
call it 1, 2 in the morning. But anyhow, so taking an Uber back, back to the place, and so I was seconds. Like we're pulling up to the hotel, done for the night, and I get a call from Dan. And he's like, "Hey, I'm at the Cosmo. Come meet me." And I was like, I can't take one more meeting. I can't take one more conversation. Like it was one of those things. And so I was like, this little voice in my head said, just do it, put your big boy pants on. So I turned the Uber around, went to the Cosmo, and met Dan, and he was, still back of the napkin idea. And from there, said, "Hey, I think there's something here." Went on to get, first revenue, first investor, more recently get the $30 million, STRATFI. And so it's just been amazing to see the Red 6, journey all the way through. And not without its hiccups, right? We were talking about that the other day, Max. So we're going to dive into that. But I love the Red 6 story. I'm a big fan of yours, of Dan. And so thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. So we'll come on over now to Krista. Krista, tell us the Dynepic story a little bit.
Absolutely. So Dynepic started as kind of a general product design firm, was working on, a bunch of other people's products and ideas, and spun out some of my own. But then we really kind of latched on to powering multi-dimensional knowledge for a better tomorrow. Our infrastructure was in connected play to start, and we got recruited into the 2019 AFWorks Mixed Reality Challenge down at that Vegas AFWorks hub, and we won that challenge. So I was like, this is either going to fall flat talking about connected play and kids' toys and all that, or it's going to go. But because of the way we had to design the infrastructure for kids to secure the data, and obviously my past in military, it kind of had very quick legs. So when we got put into the fight, we were in a phase 2 SBIR. And then maintenance training next. They didn't have the platform within AETC to deliver that. And they had 4 different vendors. So they had augmented reality vendor, they had 2 virtual reality content producers, they had an AI company, and then the Air Force had produced everything. So they had completely revamped that entire level 3 maintainer course with what's called XR, or all the R's, content. And our platform was just there, and it worked because it had been produced for commercial. And so that was kind of our first point to get put into the fight with the Air Force. We delivered that. It was a huge success. We delivered that in 90 days. So we got all those companies integrated. We're the central kind of repository for all the content then, and the central point of kind of learning management and distribution. So that kind of accelerated us through, multiple other phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then TACFI, STRATFI. So it's been a whirlwind ride. I've got, a good amount of wins, but also some scars that I hope to share. But ultimately, it's been a dream kind of coming back into the military and supporting the warfighter now as a commercial company and a commercial product, bringing our technology to bear. So.
Yeah, awesome. It's been great to see your journey, and it's exciting to be on the ground floor. Some of this was breakthrough in Shark Tank. We had set up Spark Tank for the Air Force, kind of the Shark Tank version. And so, we had Mark Cuban and George Steinbrenner as judges, and then kind of transformed the culture. And there was a push from the maintainers to kind of make this happen. And then you were able to come in, match that up on the commercial side, and eventually become a program of record. So that was that was a hell of a journey to watch. And but still scars and band-aids and bandages. So we'll get to those here in a moment, right? But congrats on all the success, and thanks for joining. Next up, Rob from Defense Unicorns. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, I'll start with the background of the company and then tie it into STRATFI. So at Defense Unicorns, we are on a mission to make software a strategic deterrent. What that means from a high level is that software delivery in the DoD, as I'm sure everybody on this call has experienced, is just it's a long process. It takes too much time. It's super difficult. There's a high bar for a cybersecurity and compliance perspective, but that doesn't mean that you can trade that off with time to value and speed of delivery. And so we've really been on this mission to acknowledge the gaps in the cloud native ecosystem. What I'd say the current state of the world is that most defense contractors take open source solutions as they are, and then they kind of wrap it in their proprietary bubble. And then they say, how can I get these existing open source solutions to work in these environments? The approach we've taken is acknowledge that the personas are actually different. The person that deploys at edge capability in the Marines is very different than the person that deploys an edge capability at Chick-fil-A. Those are different personas. They have different expectations. It's actually more complicated tech at the same time that the skill sets in general are lower. And so what we've really brought to the community is our own open source solutions to kind of plug in the gaps in the cloud native ecosystems. And then over the last year, we've also brought to market our commercial capability known as UDS. And so our STRATFI was really focused on how do you actually use UDS to serve a mission need with the customer who ended up sponsoring us, which was in the US Space Force, the assured access to space, specifically the 45th Space Launch Delta. And for folks who don't know, there's two launch ranges in the US. You got Vandenberg and you got Cape Canaveral. I used to be stationed at Patrick Air Force Base, which is jointly located there with the Cape. It's almost hard to think back to 10 and 15 years ago, but there was a time when those launch facilities were only launching something at 1 or 2 times per month. If you look at launch frequencies today, it's definitely on the order of 1 or 2 times per week. And I think there's a near future to where things are going to be launching 1 to 2 times per day. And so I think this is really like, we kind of had 2 huge lessons learned, and probably actually going to just bring them up now, which is nobody cares about your tech. All they care about is their mission problems. Like I can talk to you all day about Kubernetes, but at the end of the day, Kubernetes doesn't matter. Nobody gives a shit. All they want to know is how the thing that you're going to provide for them actually solves a mission need. And so how do you clearly articulate something that, especially in this case, they have something and it's working. And it may not be perfect, but it is working. So how do you communicate some of the problems that they're seeing now, and in our case, specifically address why working with us is going to solve their problems at scale? And if you can't effectively communicate it in words that they understand, then there's almost no opportunity. If you're ever actually in a tech discussion, you already know you're in a bad place. Now, if that's the second or third or fourth conversation and you're eventually getting down to like the engineering level, then that's probably, fine. But if it's in that first conversation or two and you're talking about technology for technology's sake, it's already heading in the wrong direction, because you really have to keep it as mission focused as possible. You really have to keep it as outcomes focused as possible if you're going to have any success there. And the other thing, and Dave kind of mentioned this, all sales and growth in the DoD is a full contact sport. STRATFI is no exception. I'd actually say STRATFI is even worse. And what's nice about the entire SBIR program is it's, quote, someone else's money. And so from a mission perspective, it's good to kind of get your foot in the door. It's good to have these conversations. Our experience through the STRATFI process was like, thinking we had it and then looking like it was going away, and then having it and then somebody inserting themselves and then it getting rejected. And then like we had multiple stage gates to where we thought we were already awarded, we thought we were already accepted. And then multiple times throughout the entire process, we got rejected from the system. And we had to use the people who actually believed in our capability to go and internal to the government kind of fight on our behalf, because you're not going to be invited to those meetings. And so, really the two biggest things we've learned is like you have to put everything in mission context. It's mission, not the technology. And then the other thing is like be prepared for a full contact sport.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it so much. Those are good tips. Probably skipped ahead to the punchline there, so we'll reiterate those when we circle back. But Dave Caudle, give us a little bit on reveal, and then we'll dive here into the good stuff. Rob started us getting down the road.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'll keep the reveal story pretty short. When we, Reveal Technology bid STRATFI, we had really one flagship product, a COTS product that worked really well and the users loved it, but it was niche. It was niche to the ground warfighter, the infantryman, the paratrooper, the ranger, SEAL, battlefield airman sort of community. It was really designed for planning, analysis, and situational awareness for sort of the door kicking community. It's pretty simple, so I'll just describe it briefly. You consume the raw video feed from any UAS flying, and on the edge, it rapidly stitches you together a three-dimensional representation, a 3D mesh of the battle space. So in minutes, you have a 3D representation, a 3D sand table, no connectivity required. You can use that to model and analyze routes, line of sight, propagation. You can plan and inform tactical maneuver right here on the, on the TAC device on your chest. So powerful, but not complicated. But as we put that capability in the field, as we were selling it across the force, we started to have engagements with CRWs and the Air Mission Liaison Officer community and the gunship folks from AVSOC. And all of those users kept asking us like, oh man, but I have like, this is great, but I have these other requirements or desirements. Like I want to automatically ingest or assess airfields. I want to assess landing zones. I want larger maps. I want more exquisite sensing platforms. Like Edge is cool for battlefield airmen, but I have a super cloud enabled tactical mission network, super processor on board kind of thing.
Right.
Can we use the feed from a Reaper? So they kept pointing us towards these like forthcoming programmatically identified, requirements, initial capabilities documents, capability developments documents, et cetera. And then this like user desirements and energy. So it just seemed logical to okay, this is probably the basis for a meaningful RDT&E project. Let's go after a STRATFI. And then at that point, it's, facilitating those folks talking to each other, talking to the acquiring authority to put in a compelling submission. And the why for reveal was pretty simple. These were all really good ideas that the user brought to us for new product direction, but it's a lot of work. Design something, build something, test something, combine all these use cases, mature the IRL, mature the MRL and TRL for those capabilities, compliance, authority to operate, as Rob was talking about. So we have capital to build those capabilities. Everyone has skin in the game, the investors, the users, the acquiring authority. Like we all perceive a lot less risk in transitioning the capabilities when a requirement for bidding it at all is that, the customers write down how much money they intend on spending in option years and for the eventual procurement of the capability.
Awesome. Appreciate that. And we're good. Dive in here. I think let's take it in a little bit different direction. So as you respond, just for the panel, for folks out there that are listening in, they want a couple takeaways. And, Rob kind of gave us a couple great takeaways. Chris, if you could do the same thing kind of in your comments, I'll direct this toward you. Thinking through, obviously a big part of STRATFI is getting the dollars, getting the money, getting the budget, right? And so that's either going to be on the government side or you're going to be doing private fundraising. It's probably a lot of the questions that are surrounding those two topics from everyone that's online today. And so let's take it down kind of the getting budget and getting those end users and supporters that you have to get to say, hey, the airman, the warfighter really wants this thing. And so a lot of folks online maybe have had experience or they're thinking, hey, I have to get that one big end user. But as you're having multiple stakeholder conversations, you might have multiple supporters for your product. And that can be viewed as a good thing. It can be a challenging thing. Chris, you want to talk a little bit about that, how you navigate that and how you make that happen so you can lose the budget you need together to get that big government budget box checked off when you apply for the STRATFI?
Absolutely. So yeah, we didn't use investment. We used phase 3 money and matched that 2-for-1. For us, it was really working to try to pull the community of folks in. Since we demonstrated maintenance training next, we kind of had that maintenance stink on us that even though we're an agnostic platform, right, everyone thought we were for maintenance. But once we started being able to do, pilot training, cyber stuff, emergency management, air traffic control, all of a sudden they're like, well, wait a minute, I shouldn't be paying for all of you, right? So now this is an enterprise kind of play. And so we had a bunch of different stakeholders that we had to try to pull together. And that actually became super important because as Rob kind of talked about some of the scars of like, hey, you have one person that interjects themselves and all of a sudden they might be a friction point. You need to make sure you've got the other stakeholders in the other areas that are also pushing your technology forward so that no, I still want this. I still have a requirement for it. This area, especially with DOGE, you're going to get changing mission requirements. You're going to get restructuring of the government and people are going to change what they're focused on. So make sure you guys put your, make sure you got stakeholders in a bunch of different areas if you can. So that if you do get the change in priorities in a certain agency that you can quickly move over to another one and be able to still, get your STRATFI through or get your further, ultimately it's about getting your product into warfighters' hands. That's the ultimate goal. So continue to push your product and solve, mission needs for the warfighters. So that's my number one, probably big tip there.
Awesome. Herding cats and bringing people together.
Yes.
Is an art form to that, right?
There is. Yeah. We tried to do like stakeholder calls. So we would always try to bring them in because that's probably the biggest thing that they don't all talk to each other. You think goes, even if they're sitting in cubicles next to each other, they might actually not even be talking. And especially if they have completely different mission sets and problems that they're trying to solve, they might not even realize that they're actually looking at the same technology. So we try to just, cause the collision across the government. And that's one thing that we've, I think, done relatively well. And it's been why we've continued to, make it through all the different wickets.
Yeah. Awesome. That's awesome insight. This next question I'm going to put over to Max. Actually goes by his call sign Freak. Probably a whole separate webinar on how he got his call sign. We will not go into this session today. But obviously getting a STRATFI highlights you. There's a lot of press that comes from it. Getting the STRATFI award, how do you think that affected the trajectory of Red 6?
Yeah, well, where I think it really helps the trajectory of the company is conceptually, if you are winning a STRATFI, then your customer has faith that your product is going to, that it has the capability to become a program of record. And you're in essence still a SBIR, right? I mean, a STRATFI is just a modified, SBIR contract. So it's that bridge or it's that trust and confidence that, yep, we're on board. And that is a huge flagship for investors and other customers. So like a little quick story for us, we went through all the standard SBIR tracks to TACFI to STRATFI and all that stuff all the way up with Air Combat Command primarily being our main customer and Air Education and Training Command. So we had AATC and ACC, and then you know, I have a place in Florida that I go to from time to time that's near Hobart. So I was like, hey, let's go talk to the AFSOC guys, and started building a relationship with those guys. I was not an AFSOC dude. I was a fighter pilot. I didn't know anything about special ops other than that they do a lot of really cool shit and break down doors and kill people.
Right.
But I went and got a really good relationship going, and they knew about, they had heard about what we were doing, knew about our tech. And fast forward here, they end up being the lead guys because ACC couldn't get a contracting office together. They ended up stepping in and being the lead folks for the STRATFI contract that we're on now. So my advice is, if you have multiple end users, and I think it's piggybacking on what Chris has said, is be able to pivot, be able to flex, and don't put all your eggs in one basket, and try and keep everybody as happy as you can, and think about how your product might need to address the nuances and needs between different customers, because AETC's requirements are different than ACC's requirements that are a little bit different than AFSOC's requirements. So be able to talk to all of that. And then when you're working on that product, find where that nexus is so that you know that you're killing three birds, in our case, three birds with one stone, every time you're moving the ball forward with your whatever you're demonstrating or whatever you're working on. Over.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for those insights. That makes a lot of sense, and we've all kind of wrestled with that. I'll send it over to you, Dave. What's your number one tip that you've kind of learned at Reveal going through this process that you think the crowd's going to be interested in?
Yeah, so I think I'll sort of double down on what Chris has said. You've got all these disparate user groups, and they don't disparate, user and customer and user type communities, and they don't necessarily talk to each other. They have their own charter and their own priorities. I think that if I could identify the one thing that really landed this STRATFI effort for us, it was a single master sergeant from the United States Air Force or Space Force that was just impassioned enough about the capability to force all those folks to talk to each other. I think that getting him or recognizing that he was the right government partner early on, and he's facilitating the, he has the authority as the representative of the United States government to call those offices and get aligned and say, okay, I've got these desirements over here and these requirements over here. What's the consistent thing that we're going to build, and hit every gate along the way. That was really important. I mean, I think he went as far as to, communicate to his chain of command and his supervisors, hey, this is going to be a heavy lift, but this is important. It's going to be an important capability. I'm going to need time and space and travel funds to pull this together and do it the right way. I think the identification, and we usually think that person's going to be a colonel or a general or something like that. I think like defense tech startup, typical, like, oh, I got a general excited.
Right.
It's usually like a major, a major sergeant first class somewhere that's just really passionate about the capability, about the problem you're trying to solve. I think identifying that person is the real key.
Yeah, that's a great insight. I'd call them innovation superheroes.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go after a STRATFI, find your innovation superhero, because the process has shifted right over time. It used to be the company submitted. Right now, within the STRATFI, you have to get the government to submit with the internal system. So it's even a bigger lift you're asking of a government stakeholder to not only believe in it, but take precious time out of their day in terms of months to actually submit the onerous paperwork that some of this stuff has become. And they have other jobs, and you're like, hey, did you do this? Hey, did you do this? And it used to be the company had the control of that, and now they don't. So that's a great tip is, hey, who's the innovation superhero, and keep working through to find that advocate, because it does take that internal advocate to continue to push, to continue to break down walls. Otherwise, it gets lost in the sauce, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Identify, that's the takeaway from me, is identify who's going to press the submit button. Make sure it's a person that has the energy and bandwidth to do what is a lot more work than it sounds like at the surface.
Yep. Awesome. That's why it helps to have a Sherpa, because it's a hell of a navigation. Rob, you've been through this on a couple sides of the fence, and gave some great tips. Shifting it more to maybe a little bit more tactical, like, you have this capability development package, you're trying to find maybe some outside funding, you're trying to find some budget, you're trying to find the innovation superhero. How do you think about, how did you craft kind of that value proposition that's so compelling that the government's like, yeah, we got to have some of that?
Yeah, so I think like most groups, you know, you hear about something like STRATFI, especially from the outside looking in, you're like, who the heck wouldn't want to do this? But there's a certain type of internal defense unicorns. We use the term mission hero versus customer. So if you hear say mission hero, you know, just think customer. But who's the right mission hero to actually work this? Because like Dave mentioned, there's actually a persona difference versus like like a major PEO with a senior ML. Like maybe StratFi is not the right approach for them. They have a massive budget, and if they have these large budgets and they're not willing to give you a dollar, maybe that's the wrong persona. Maybe that's the wrong organization. I think in general, we've been looking at StratFi for a period of time, and we're really looking for that right mission hero that had all these ingredients that we thought we needed to be successful. And both Daves nailed it. You have these like innovation superheroes, you're like action officers that's going to go to bat, but then they have to have the ear of someone else. And it's the combination of those two things that I think are really vital. And then the third thing I'll actually add, which was a major part of our decision, is you have to find an organization that's actually willing to palm for what you want so you actually catch it. Because if you just get this spike of funding and there's actually no, really thought into how this is going to actually get funded through their PE and what this is going to look like long term, you kind of need all of those ingredients. So for us, it was like, we had a variety of different customers. We were waiting for that. And what we really saw was an organization, in this case, Assured Access to Space, that really liked what we were doing. They seem willing to palm for us, but they know that the money's not going to get here anytime soon. And so this, the StratFi for us really like I said, everything aligned. We knew that we had this awesome innovator. We had one or two that were willing to back us. We knew that we had a senior leader support, in this case, General Purdy. And so we kind of had this combo of senior leader plus innovative action officer plus a program office already willing to commit to Palm. And that was what we were looking for, which was like, this is going to be a seed investment. This is going to be like a true bridge, but you never want it to just spike. Yeah, coming from the government, I've seen a lot of innovation spikes, and it's hard enough to just get the spike. It's exhausting work. But then if you have the spike and you have nothing to catch it on the other side, it becomes demoralizing. Like, oh my gosh, you do all of this work, you deliver all this capability, and just because you couldn't figure out the back end side of it, it's just going to dwindle down until it eventually goes away. In some cases, 1, 2, or even 3 years later. And so it's important to find senior leader, that innovator, and then also the program office. That's already, like I said, what we were really looking for was that verbal commit to actually start programmatically putting in the budget line. So that way, even if you get the StratFi, on the other side, there'll still be money there.
Yep. Great insights. Carrie, can you do me a favor? Open up the lines. Folks, this is your opportunity to start putting questions into the chat, asking them online as well. So as you're doing that, and as we're opening the lines for questions, because we want to make sure we hear from the audience here, any questions you have, I'm just going to go round robin real quick. Tell me one sentence only. What was the hardest, biggest challenge, within the StratFi thing for you? So biggest challenge, hardest thing within the StratFi, one sentence. Go. Dave, we'll start with you.
The signature from PEO actual of the acquiring authority of the end customer. Because he's committing contracting resources over a significant period of time.
Yeah, it's significant. Marissa.
Are you talking about me?
Chris, what the hell did I say?
It's okay.
You got to tell Dave to stop drinking on these things. So,
So,
Chris, we love you. So sorry.
Yeah, hardest thing is I would say maintaining your commercial product. Remember, you're still a commercial dual use product. Make sure you maintain your commercial product. So I think after our STRATFI, we got back to basics and got rid of some of the government bloat. Maintain your nimble commercial product.
Awesome. Freak.
The hardest thing for us was after we won the STRATFI, you still have to get it on contract. And depending upon the contracting offices you're working with that you don't really have a whole lot of control over, explaining to them how this product or how the program works and how money is matched and added and all that. So that took us about 6 months. So it was a long time to get it on contract.
Awesome. Rob.
Same story. I'd frame it as working through tactical interactions internal to the government in meetings that you're not actually invited to. And so how do you get it through when you're lacking all the context? And similar to Freak, it took us, I think ours took about 8 months to get on contract after it was verbally announced.
Yeah, it's too dang long. If you remember, Rob, when we started that program, it was supposed to be no more than 60 days. And if you remember, we had those sprints, we had the contracting sprint. So we first started AFWorks, it was 2 weeks after announcements. We bring the lawyers, the contractors, everyone together and knock out like 100 contracts and get them out. And somehow the process of innovation turned into bureaucracy, as it often does. So, you know, we hate seeing those longer timelines, but still think it's a viable vehicle to help transition technology. Jordan here has a question. How much flexibility is there in the relative timing of closure of a private investment round and closure of the STRATFI? I think I can knock that one out pretty quickly, which is in the TACFI, you have to have your investment in order to get the contract. So once it's announced the contract's awarded, that's a smaller amount. You know, it's been kind of 1.8 million and going up a little bit, 1.9 million towards, you know, kind of the 2 millions. For the larger STRATFI, as long as you have LOIs, you can, and some of the initial funding to get matching, you can lay your fundraising in over the multiple year period of the STRATFI itself. So those are differences between the two programs, the TACFI and the STRATFI. But at the end of the day, you do have to have the money in and prove it to get the matching corresponding money from the Air Force or the Space Force. There's a question from Hank. I'll let someone on the panel pick it up. How long should we give our Air Force sponsors to get their paperwork completed? That's anyone want to take that?
I mean, it's a fine balance because you obviously have a due date that you're working towards, and it's as soon as possible. But you just got to work the relationship with them, and then I would say do as much as you can. I know that they have to submit it, they got to sign it, but there's a whole lot of work that you can do ahead of time so that it's less work for them. You know, there's not a staff that I'm aware of that turns away free staff work that's done for them. So I think that would be the best thing you do is get it as much to over the goal line as possible.
Yeah. Do the work for them. That's always a good tip. I know Lynn and the staff at the Outpost, I think, recommend 6 months ahead of time to work, you know, budget and paperwork and that type of stuff. Does that sound about right to you guys?
Well, yes and no. I mean, not that I disagree with 6 months. The issue that we had is the release date for the STRATFI documentation kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed, but the due date didn't really move that much. So they didn't tell you what the structure was going to look like, but the due date stayed the same. So you're just like, oh boy, this is great.
This is yeah. Any other timing tips for anybody before we move on to the next question?
I think
This is go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'll double down on the number one recommendation that I already gave, which is if that Gantt chart, if those dependencies of what's due and when you need to have things collected by, can be tracked intimately by your government representative, as opposed to you as industry nagging all of these entities to submit things on time. If it is your uniform government representative that is keeping track of that timeline and them bugging them, it's a lot better. It's a lot easier. You don't want to you don't want to be the vendor. You don't want to be the vendor bugging program offices to submit things. So back to you on time.
No, that sucks, for sure. Michael has a great question for us here. Are our adversaries working faster and getting funding faster than STRATFI winners? Problem, what is being done to ameliorate this? Well, I'll kick it off and then chime in from the panel. Just take the Chinese, for example, they have MilSieve fusion. The government can say, hey, we need that tech, we're gonna make it happen. So in a lot of ways, that is quicker. You probably heard maybe some content from me where I've talked about how do you counter this, and I think we do it with what's uniquely American, which is making sure that there's capitalist incentive, and we're not going to mirror exactly what the Chinese are able to do with MilSieve fusion. And so it's about shortening the time and the capability for great entrepreneurs and great innovators to be committed to uniquely defense-related problems, and get after it. And the more folks we can have doing that, and the more incentive there is, we can apply what I think is uniquely American and capitalist to the system. So I don't think we can copy what the Chinese do. I think we can get after, and that was the intent of STRATFI, was to help transition stuff. I remember I had a conversation, gentleman, he came off a DARPA contract, a few $1 million, and was out of money, needed money to raise money, and was getting no name your own term sheets from Chinese investors. And so those are tough decisions for companies, right? Do I take my tech and take the money that I need to keep going, or keep it uniquely on this side of the fence? And so that's a challenge. That's a real challenge, especially as you look at post-seed, early A kind of companies, and it's competitive out there. So it is an issue. STRATFI is supposed to help. The elongation of the timeline doesn't help. And so, if anyone wants to comment, what's being done to ameliorate this, I think this was partially intended to help, but how do we give more incentive to entrepreneurs to keep getting after this? Any thoughts from the panel?
I'm gonna push on, go make yourself a very profitable business on both sides of the house. Don't just sit on the government side. I've actually lived through this when I worked for somebody. You always want to be on both sides. If you're a growing commercial company and you're innovating from the private sector and the federal government, I think the federal government gets what they need: commercial products, more commercial products, and that way you're not also totally beholden to the government and their timelines, because sometimes they don't always work out in your favor. So take care of your business. Obviously, if you can get investment and you've got great customers, but I'll also say, just from experience, we have had requirements, we have had program of records, we have had POMs. I'm not on any of those right now. So make sure, right, that you're growing your business to be profitable, because at the end of the day, to get your product into the warfighter's hands, you have to be around and you have to be the best tech. So make sure you're growing your business and being that, because I do believe the best tech wins ultimately at the end of the day. You've seen that with Starlink, right? Like all those other comm systems are really nothing now that you can just turn on a Starlink. And we're working to make MOTAR the same thing for our industries.
Awesome, great insights. Any other ideas? How do we counter our adversaries?
Well, I think that everyone identifies that we've been talking about acquisition reform for the 30 years that I was in the Air Force, and I don't think it's been reformed very much, at least not my experience, my personal experience. So I say that a little tongue in cheek. I know there are some things that we can do to go quickly, but I think a lot of it is just the bureaucracy slows us down. So I don't think that's over for us to fix it. That's over for the DoD to try and shorten the cycle. And I know that STRATFI was one of those programs that was intended to do that. And there's at least 2 of us on here that did not see that come to fruition on the timelines that were advertised. And a lot of it was not it for us. We got into a unique situation because even though we were the only people making the product and we were sole and we won the award, the contracting office was treating it like it's still a competitive environment. So we couldn't talk to anybody and nobody understood really how it worked. And so I couldn't answer the questions because, I mean, we tried to back channel and got a little hand slap going, quit talking to us. I'm like, okay, we will not talk to you anymore. And that just ate up time on the clock like you read about. So that's what I think.
Can I jump on that real fast?
Please.
So one thing I've done a lot and I never thought I would do is I am working with House Armed Services Committee, Senate Armed Services Committee, Congress. I've had NDAA directive report language in for the last 5 years. I now am working to legislate, like actually have bill passage to solve some of these things so the COs get trained on SBIRs and fully understand it and have advocacy of small businesses. So work it from all angles and know, right, like you have the ability and as a, citizen, you have the ability to work with your Congress men and women, and they, like, it's an open door. The professional staff, House Armed Services Committee, Senate Armed Services Committee, really get in and work with them because they don't see this stuff on, that you're dealing with. And so it's great to elevate it because it's their job to do oversight.
Yeah, I'll piggyback
Awesome.
on
Thank
that
you.
real quick too, Dave. Piggyback on that. Yeah, I know we're talking about STRATFI and STRATFI funds, but we've also were able to secure congressionally added funds that they have a timeline, and they also have congressmen calling up going, "What did you do with the money that I gave you?" So it's good to have that. So that's another avenue to help all this. And then we even had some of those congressionally added funds put on a contract that added to our government contracts to add to our matching for STRATFI. So that's a little bit of the connect the dots, but there's something there. Over.
Yeah, and that's good insights. I know the Outpost team had worked with some lobbyists to get some light items in the Hask and Sask. Typically, if you get $10 million in there, that'll get chopped up in half in committee, but you can still get a line item and then try to drag that over. As Rob said, it's a pitching and catching game, so you got to get that line item over to some kind of program code and the leadership to make sure that the program manager doesn't steal it for their must pay bills. Might have experienced that a time or two, and get that money actually to your company. So there's some navigation on the authorization side of the hill, and then getting that over to the appropriation and eventually into that particular project. So we'll do this. I think we're going to do a quick round robin here with this last question. This will be the last question. Amazing time today. If you could go back and do it all over again, knowing what you know now, how would you do it differently? Again, this is going to be a one sentence round robin. We're going to finish off strong here, so I'm buying time for you to think about it, so it can be as impactful as the crowd has been waiting for an hour for the big impact statement from you, and so here it is, folks that have been in the trenches, that have gotten their STRATFIs. If you could go back and you know what you know now, how would you go about differently? Rob, give it to us.
For us, there's a huge difference in the type of engineer that we hire on our mission-focused delivery work versus our product work. And so the number one thing that I wish we changed was similar to some of the conversations here. We got the verbal announcement. Yes, you got the award literally months and months and months before the work actually started. When we got that verbal announcement, we recruited, we hired. We would have literally just waited until the contract officially closed and signed, just because it changes the expectations. And of course, you hire people and now the work isn't started. They go somewhere else. You don't want to pull them off now. And so it became, wait till the contract is signed before you actually go and hire any of the support personnel that you might need for this. I would recommend for any of the folks that are working any of these, even if you have a pure product play, you still need those experts, those forward deployed engineer equivalents to actually understand the problem, because they're not buying your tech. They're buying a solution to their mission problem. And if you actually don't have that context, you don't have those insights, you're not going to be successful long term. So never get one of these awards and assume that you're not going to have somebody dedicated specifically to that mission environment.
Awesome. Krista.
So I would have put one of my Dynepic personnel embedded with my customer, so that other folks that maybe were there on site didn't angle against aspects. So definitely get in so that you make sure that data and information is handled appropriately and that you're advocated for appropriately within that organization. So get your folks on site, make sure they're constantly communicating, because they'll get invited into rooms that you're not part of because they're on site.
Awesome. We got 30 seconds. Freak. Go quick.
What I would have done is get a level of education on STRATFI equal across all the customers. So we had 3 customers, they inadvertently got tiered, and we ended up taking the one at the bottom stepped up, but they didn't know anything about it. And so we had to educate them really fast. And I would have gone back and done that a lot earlier.
A lot earlier. Makes sense. Dave, what you got?
Sorry, I was on mute. The scope. Our scope was almost entirely tech dev. I would have included more money for ATO, FSRs, office space, etc. We were trying to be competitive, and I think I shot myself in the foot a bit.
Awesome. Amazing stuff, guys. We're out of time, but the STRATFI winner circle did not disappoint. A little controversy, a little good stuff, all mixed together. So on behalf of the Outpost Ventures, it's been awesome to having you guys. Red 6, Dynepic, Defense Unicorns, Reveal Technology, all winners in our hearts and minds, all winners in driving defense tech forward. We're super proud of you. Congrats on STRATFIs and navigating the ups and downs. And we look forward to seeing your continued growth here. Thanks for everyone that joined online. We enjoy bringing really good insights to the defense tech community, the dual use community, to inspire others, but also get you the knowledge you need to succeed. So with that, I'm Dave Harden, and always remember to do good and make money and go prosper. So have fun while you're doing it. Appreciate all the great relationships and everyone joining today. And with that, we'll say peace out. Enjoy the rest of your hump day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
See you.
Thanks, panel. You guys